Hi, my name is Madison James, and I am the member of the Winchester High School National Honor Society. We would like to thank you for your willingness to be interviewed today. We plan to include these in our Veterans Day program, and they will be live. We'll be using short segments of each interview, and uh, they will be viewed in the classrooms. It will be posted on the website also for the public to watch. We have some questions here for you today, and if you don't want to answer them, that's fine. Completely fine. Okay, so can you please tell me your name and your years of service in the military?
So my name is Matt Barber. I actually served twice. First time was August 2002 to August 2005, and then I got out in 05, and in 06 I got a packet telling me to go back to the Army. So I ended up serving the second time. I think it was January of 07 to June of 08.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah.
Thank you. Why did you pick the service of branch you joined?
So it was kind of several things. I had both of my grandpas had been in the Army and served during the Korean time frame. So that kind of played into it. And then I remember I watched movies. I know it sounds tacky, but there was a movie called Hamburger Hill that was pretty popular about the 101st, and Band of Brothers was big, which was about the 101st, and then Black Hawk Down was very popular, and the 101st had, that's what we did was fast rope and rappel and that kind of stuff. And I remember going by Fort Campbell as a kid and seeing all the helicopters, which seemed pretty cool at the time.
Yeah.
So it was just kind of, that's where I wanted to go, and I kind of had some lineage and kind of had a desire to go there, I guess.
All right. What do you remember about like basic training and like what helped you get through it?
So, whenever I went through basic training, I was in the infantry, so there were certain MOSs that they did what they called OSET, one-stop unit training. So they combined basic with our individual training. So instead of doing 9 weeks of basic and then going and doing 4 months of training, they just combine it into one so they can kind of get you out quicker. You don't understand at the time that you're going through there why they do stuff, but they just don't let you sleep. I remember being asleep for an hour and thinking, after probably been there for 3 weeks, it all just kind of melted together, and at 2 o'clock being woken up with a trash can hitting my my bunk, and that's how they woke us up. And we had one drill sergeant who enjoyed pushing over our bunks, which then would, or our lockers, and just be a domino effect. And they'd wake you up and they do what they call smoke you, where they take you down and you do physical exercise for until they get bored, essentially. But at the time, it was like these guys are just mean. I don't know why they're doing this. Like it doesn't. I just want to serve my country, kind of deal. And it's for a purpose. It's catching you off guard, and they're making you do stuff. Sleep deprived, because that's eventually what you'll end up doing. And it's under reasonable times. Like they'll give you 30 seconds to get dressed, and you better have your boots shined and starched, and it's unreasonable. But it's all a test for mental stuff. But just remember a real lack of sleep and a lot of yelling and a lot of running, and it's one of the last times I ever had a six-pack. But,
During your years of service, are there like a couple memorable moments or like people that had an impact on you that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so my best friend, we met in basic. He's from Elgin, Illinois, Justin Faulkner. We actually went to the same company and served in Iraq together, and then whenever I got recalled, he got recalled at the same time. We served in Afghanistan together. And he's very much a brother, is how I would kind of say it. But he was far more mature than I was. He had graduated from Purdue before he enlisted. He could have gone in as an officer, but he actually wanted to enlist in an officer. We always say the officers don't really work. It's the enlisted that does everything. So he actually wanted to go, and after 9/11 was whenever we joined, and wanted to serve in that capacity and actually do instead of just telling.
Yeah.
And he very much, as a 18, 19-year-old kid, him being 21, 22, was kind of the older brother that I needed to kind of emulate, after. So, but yeah.
You can keep going.
No, that's it.
Okay. Do you recall the day your service ended, and what did you do in the days, weeks, and months, and like years after?
So whenever I got out in '05, they had something called stop loss at the time, which meant that if you were close to getting out of the Army, they would tell you that you can't get out, you have to go and do another deployment. So my actual date was like August 13th of 2005, I think is what it was supposed to be. But I had leave, because they give you a lot of leave, but they just don't let you take it, which is kind of funny if you think about it. But you can do that on the back end where you can turn in all your leave and leave early. And I had enough time that I could get out on June 30th at noon, because I had a half day. Stop loss was taking effect on July 1st, and the Army doesn't recognize a half hour. So I actually was supposed to go and do a second deployment to Iraq. And my first sergeant, my wife and I had a whole wedding that we had planned, and we had expected me to get out, obviously. So he actually went to our battalion commander and basically said that they'd be willing to let me get out because it was in my interest, and there was some other stuff. But I remember thinking, thank God, because I just did not want to go back.
Yeah.
And of course, I ended up getting recalled, which is kind of ironic. But like whenever the Army, you never kind of believe something's going to happen until it's actually occurring. And so, like, I just remember sweating it and thinking, I'm not going to get out, they're not going to let me get out. And then whenever I got out on July 1st, I went as far away from Fort Campbell as possible, because I knew that they would probably look for me if they needed me back in. And then that entire time I was on leave, they could actually cancel it if anything happened. And I just remember freaking out like they're going to take me. Once I got out, I thought I was done. And I did what everybody does when you get out of the Army, and probably isn't appropriate to talk about. But then whenever I got out the second time, Jennifer and I were married, and we lived in South Jacksonville, and we really didn't celebrate because, again, we didn't really believe that they weren't going to call me back for a second time. So whenever I got they give you like a little diploma thing, whenever you sign up for the military, you don't, like I signed up for 3 years of active duty, but you actually sign up for 8 years. So after my 8 years, I actually got this little diploma thing, and it's about the only thing that we've actually framed, because it was, to get out, and that was, we definitely had a party then, and hung out. But since then, I worked at the comptroller's office for the state of Illinois for a little bit. Then I joined the state police after that. I've been there for about, I don't know if I'm in my 10th or 11th year. It kind of, meshes together too. Got a family and just try to go about our lives. So
yeah. How did your service affect your life?
Well, there's the personality side of it. I was very much raised with discipline, but I was very much unruly. So, if you go back and ask Miss Varner, if you go back and talk to her about me in her class, I very much remember being, which I think that's whenever she was starting there, was whenever we were there. But I remember several classes in high school and grade school whenever I would just show up to my classroom and my desk was already outside. And that was just the way that it was. Me and a group of other friends, we were definitely unruly, but it gave me the discipline, but then the reason to be disciplined as well. I hated school, and I just, as Americans, we take a lot of liberties for granted every day, and I hated school. I'm pretty sure I was probably pretty close to failing and flunking my senior year. And so I say that because whenever I went to Afghanistan, probably more than Iraq, women couldn't be educated, and if they would literally kill the teachers, and then the girls would get the same, if not worse, and that was something I had completely taken for granted. To be able to read and write is something that we don't think much about today. It's just school's a burden whenever you're going through it. But there were kids, younger than you guys, that were willing to risk their lives, or they would deform them in different ways if they went to school. But they were willing to do that for the things that we take for granted. So that is definitely, every day we take everything for granted, from freedom of speech to all this stuff, that goes on. And I think it woke me up to what we're gifted, not what we have.
Yeah. Is there anything that we haven't talked about or covered that you'd like to
I
add?
think that's it.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.